Hey guys, welcome to my legal classes. This is Ganesh Pujari and we were discussing sources of international law. In this series, the first video that we are going to discuss is international conventions and treaties as a source of international law, and I'm not wasting any of your time. Let's get into the first slide. This is a flying slide. We have already discussed this particular slide in detail in my sources of international law class. So what we are going to do, we are going to focus only on Article 38(1) subsection or subclause A, which discusses about international conventions and treaties as sources of law. So this slide you can take a screenshot. We have already discussed. So I am moving to the next slide. Now, if we are treating international conventions and treaties as the source of law, we need to understand the term meaning of these beautiful words. Now, what is a treaty? Article 2 of the Vienna Convention of the Law of Treaties 1969 says, a treaty is an agreement whereby two or more states establish or seek to establish relationship between them governed by international law. Now, why are treaties? What are they doing? They try to establish or seek to establish relationship between them, and these are governed by international law. That is what Article 2 of the Vienna Convention of the Law of Treaties 1969 has to say. Now, Professor Schwanberger has said, treaties are agreements between subjects of international law creating a binding obligation in international law. When we are saying the subjects of international law, these are different states. That is what you need to remember. So these are the agreements between different states. So what are they doing? They are binding obligation in international law. That is what he has to say. And then we have already studied Article 38, which considers the international conventions as the source of law. As the treaties are also going along with conventions, we are studying them along with international conventions. Professor Stark has divided treaties into two major types, the first being lawmaking treaties and the other one is treaty contracts. Now, treaty contracts were available even before the First World War. They were the common contract treaties which are available between two or more states, but they are limited to few countries only. Whereas lawmaking treaties gained lot of power during the First World War and later, and more than 250 such treaties came into existence because this has considered as one of the major source of law, and majority of the states started signing the same and started agreeing the same. So these are considered as direct source of law, that is lawmaking treaties, whereas the treaty contracts are not the direct source of international law. However, if they are started getting recognized by many of the states, then they can also be considered as source of law over a period of time. There are many examples for treaty contracts getting converted into lawmaking treaties. That is a possibility that we need to remember. SFL opinion also has some opinion related to treaties. He says there are many treaties where states are coming together and signing the treaties and they become the general international law. On the other hand, there are few countries coming together and signing the treaty, but over a period of time, with the passage of time, these treaties can also be considered as universal international law because slowly the other countries will also start following the same. That is how he is seeing the treaties as sources of law. Now the next question is, what is a convention? We know treaties are more formal. Conventions are almost going along with treaties, but they are not as formal as treaties are. If you ask me, conventions are one step lesser comparing to treaties. So treaties are most like they are respected document, whereas conventions are not that formal documents, but they are also agreement between the states. That is what you need to remember. Now, if you ask me to few important conventions, the Bucharest Conventions, which was signed in the year 1994 between 6 different states to protect Black Sea. Now, this is one of the important convention that you need to remember. The second important example for a convention that I wanted to give you guys is the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide. What is genocide? Genocide is killing or slaughtering human being. Now, there were many times the attempts were made to kill a particular group of people for nationalism or with the reason of ethical or racism or religious reasons. Now, this convention has decided that such attempts should not be made. What are the attempts should not be made? like killing members of a particular group is not okay, or causing serious bodily or mental harm is also not okay, or trying to bring a physical destruction of a particular group completely or partially is also not okay, or if somebody is trying to prevent birth in a particular group, that is also not okay, or forcibly transferring children of one particular group to another particular group is also not okay. These were the five major things were discussed under the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide, and this was signed by as many as 152 states as far as 8th July 2019 is concerned. This is one of the major convention that you can quote in your exam. The next important convention that you can quote in your exam with the recent incident, that is Geneva Conventions for the Protection of War Victims 1949, with the example of Abhinandan. Now this convention discusses about the safety of wartime prisoners or the civilians and military personnel whoever got caught during a war, or protection of the wounded or sick such civilian or military personnel, or protecting the civilians who are in and around war zone. Now all these aspects were discussed under the Geneva Conventions for the Protection of War Victims 1949, and as a result of this we could get back Abhinandan in a quick period of time when it happened with Pakistan. Now if you want to know more about the incident, you can Google the Balakot airstrike, where you'll get more of the information particular to Abhinandan. Now that's what I wanted to share when it comes to international conventions and lawmaking treaties. That brings an end to international conventions and treaties as the source of international law. In my next video, I am going to discuss customs as the source of international law. If you have already subscribed my channel, thank you so much for the same. If you are yet to subscribe my channel, this is your time to subscribe my channel. Please like, share and comment my videos. All the very best for whatsoever purpose you are watching my video, and thank you so much again.